This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. One day after Donald Trump gave Canada a 30-day reprieve from punishing tariffs, the federal and provincial governments wanted to demonstrate their efforts to strengthen the U.S. border. CBC's Bartley Kivas attended the show and tell session at Emerson Point of Entry.
A Canada Border Services agent shows off a machine that can detect traces of fentanyl. The device isn't new, yet showing it off is a big priority for the Canadian government. It wants to satisfy U.S. President Donald Trump's fixation on preventing fentanyl from finding its way across the border. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew took pains to suggest taking fentanyl off the streets is a Manitoba priority too.
We want to see a crackdown on fentanyl in our communities. When we have a secure border, that benefits people in our province.
Kinew, Federal Public Safety Minister David McGuinty, and two other Liberal MPs took a 2-hour tour today of the Emerson-Pembina crossing, the 5th busiest point of entry in Canada. The tour started with an address to Mounties and Border Services agents from politicians who expressed relief the tariffs are on hold for now.
The tariffs that were announced by President Trump had the potential to be incredibly disruptive. We got a bit of a reprieve.
Then came the demonstration of the scanning machine, capable of detecting dozens of drugs as well as firearms residue. Then the entourage moved to a road on the south side of Emerson, right along the Minnesota border, where McGuinty rejected the idea the entire exercise was intended for an audience consisting solely of Donald Trump.
That would be the wrong interpretation of today. I think the interpretation of today is that Canadians should know that we have a very strong border.
And what happens if the U.S. president wants to impose some other condition on Canada to stave off tariffs in March?
Where will we be in 29 days? That's up to the president. But let's be honest about something, okay? The president of the United States ran in an election. And he won the election fair and square. And he has a platform that he's delivering in his own way for the American people.
Border enforcement personnel are not going anywhere, but we will find out in 29 days whether the goalposts will move in terms of what the U.S. wants from Canada. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Emerson.
Now, those same politicians then set their sights north this afternoon, pumping an injection of funds into the port of Churchill. Nearly $80 million is going to be spent on the port from both levels of government. CBC's Gavin Axelrod was at that announcement earlier this afternoon. So, Gavin, what more can you tell us about this one?
Well, the province will spread $36 million over 2 years to the Arctic Gateway Group for infrastructure projects. That's on top of $30 million announced by the province to improve the Hudson Bay Railway and Port of Churchill last year. The federal government is also putting up more than $40 million over 2 years for the Arctic Gateway Group to help with the revitalization of the rail line. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew says the money will create good jobs and open up markets related to mining, agriculture, and energy. Kinew says this investment is a long time coming and points to the need to diversify trade markets. The announcement comes just one day after U.S. President Donald Trump paused hefty tariffs on Canada for 30 days.
Being able to ship goods to the EU, the European Union, is helpful for our long-term economic security as well. So you just go down the list, every single dimension of this project makes sense. And then if you're sitting there asking, well, what about reconciliation? Guess what? It's owned by Indigenous communities. So it's just a win-win-win opportunity every which way you look at it.
So, Gavin, Ottawa is also putting money into partnerships with Indigenous communities and University College of the North. So how important will that be for some of these communities?
Yeah, that's right, Brittany. The federal government says more than $2 million will go toward accelerating the development of Manitoba's ability to produce critical minerals. The money will also support training and skill development for Indigenous people in their home communities to create jobs. Now, one of those communities receiving thousands from Ottawa is Saugeen First Nation. Chief E.J. Fontaine says the funding represents a beacon of hope.
It's okay to have development in our territory, but it's equally and more important for us to be a part of that, to be partners, but also to be heavily invested in the future of the province and the country.
Over $1 million will also go to the University College of the North to expand Indigenous training there. Brittany.
All right, thanks, Gavin. That's CBC's Gavin Axelrod. Public health officials say 5 cases of measles have been confirmed in the southern part of the province. Manitoba Health says it's connected to an outbreak in Ontario. The confirmed cases are from the same household and they are all isolating. Manitoba Health also released a list of locations where people may have been exposed to the measles virus. They include the Rhineland Mennonite Church in Winkler on January 26th and multiple places within HSC Hospital this past Friday. Officials are urging people to get vaccinated. The province's police watchdog is investigating after a video was posted online appearing to show an RCMP officer standing on a man's chest during an arrest. This is the video circulating online. Police say the man was being arrested for assault, but he resisted and became combative with the 2 officers. Police had been responding to a disturbance at a home in Moose Lake Friday. Officers say they were told the man had assaulted a woman inside the house and he was refusing to leave. The man was tasered twice during the arrest and handcuffed. RCMP confirmed this video is from the arrest, but doesn't show the whole interaction. The 22-year-old is facing multiple charges, and the Independent Investigation Unit is looking into the incident. 3 people were taken to hospital after a fire in Charleswood. Crews spent nearly an hour battling the fire in an 8-story building on Hendon Avenue. It broke out just before 7 this morning. Paramedics on scene treated 3 people who were then taken to hospital. Some residents were temporarily forced out of the building, while others were told to shelter in place. The cause of the fire remains under investigation. It's been almost a year since a massive sewage spill in the Red River. Now the city of Winnipeg faces charges over the incident that dumped hundreds of millions of litres of waste into the waterway. CBC's Cameron McLean reports.
In February last year, a broken pipe near the Fort Garry Bridge led to one of the largest sewage spills in Winnipeg history. A bypass system took weeks to install, leading to 230 million litres of raw sewage spilling into the Red River. The province launched an investigation into the leak and last week filed charges against the city under the Environment Act. Water and Waste Committee Chair Ross Eady says the city will fight the charge in court.
I'm confident that the city will be able to provide reasoning and exactly what happened, and a judge will make a decision whether or not to fine us under that or not.
The penalties could range from a fine of up to $500,000 for a first offence and up to $1 million for any subsequent offence. The city has said crews discovered problems with the pipe in November of 2023 and were trying to repair it when the pipe failed. Winnipeg Mayor Scott Gillingham says the city is making big investments in its wastewater system.
We want to prevent diluted sewage or raw sewage going into our rivers. We make significant investments, continue to make significant investments in our wastewater assets, pipes, to try to prevent that.
Alexis Canu of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation says downstream communities began noticing the damage last spring.
It looked very much like what a combined sewer overflow event looks like on the riverbanks in the city. Unfortunately, I don't think that the consequences are necessarily over for that spill because the pipe isn't completely repaired. And we're now coming up upon another spring melt.
A permanent fix for the pipe is expected to cost $20 million and be completed this year. The city also faced charges for a 2011 spill, which led to a $10,000 fine. No court date has been set for these latest charges. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg police now believe an incident last week near St. John Brebeuf School in River Heights was not an attempted child abduction. On Friday morning, a witness saw a man approach 2 girls aged 8 and 10 and take one of them by the hand. The witness intervened and the man ran off. Police have since identified him and say while the behavior was concerning, it's not believed he was attempting to abduct the children. No charges have been laid. And Riley Lachak is in now. Riley, another bitterly cold day out there.
I mean, we'll see a little bit of a warm up tomorrow, Brittany, but we have some snow on the way, and actually some accumulating snow for many of us across the province. Looking at some of our temperatures from the afternoon, minus 18 in Winnipeg, as expected, minus 17 downtown this afternoon, minus 21 in Brandon, Thompson minus 19. So we have a snowfall warning in place. This for the Dauphin region, Riding Mountain National Park, into St. Rose, into Roblin and Russell as well, looking at up to 20 centimeters of snow by the afternoon on Thursday. All the result of a system that's coming in from the States, interacting with a low out of Colorado. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on and the impact it'll have here in Winnipeg. Minus 21 tonight, mainly cloudy skies overnight in Winnipeg. Wind staying fairly light. We'll see periods of snow starting in the morning through the afternoon hours tomorrow, Brittany, up to minus 12 by the time we get to the afternoon. We'll talk about how much snow we can expect here in the Red River Valley and your full long-range forecast when I come back.
All right, Riley, don't put those shovels away quite yet. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tariff trouble in the province's pork industry. I'm Josh Crabb, west of Steinbach. I'll tell you why the industry and producers are worried.
There's some temporary relief in Manitoba's hog sector after Canada averted Donald Trump's tariffs. The U.S. president's 30-day pause is allowing pork producers to exhale with their biggest export market still open for business. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, any disruption to that relationship would be a major blow to the industry.
On a bitter cold February day, there was tension and concern on this southeast Manitoba hog farm.
So this is the barn?
This is it.
Producer Scott Peters has been in the business since 1999 and feared U.S. tariffs would have put a chill on the province's pork sector.
Ultimately, we need the U.S. for our products, and that's the bottom line. We can't eat our way out of this at all.
President Donald Trump decided Monday to pause 25% tariffs on Canadian exports into the U.S. for 30 days. That has Peters breathing a sigh of relief, but uncertainty lingers.
I'm worried. I'm concerned for the people that work in the industry. There's maybe could potentially be a good outcome here yet at some point. But if this thing lasts from like several months or several years, then we're in all kinds of trouble.
Excuse me, big guy.
He raises tens of thousands of pigs annually and employs 50 people. Peter says hog farmers in this province rely heavily on the U.S. to import their live piglets and to buy pork products processed in Manitoba.
These pigs will eventually be sent to High Life's pork plant in Neighbourhoods to be slaughtered and processed. And some of that meat goes to the U.S.
When you combine both live animals as well as pork, then it's the #1 market.
Manitoba Pork General Manager Cam Dahl says every year the province exports $200 million in livestock and an additional $450 million worth of pork south of the border. 25% tariffs would make both pigs and processed meat more expensive for U.S. importers and could drive up prices for consumers. While they're on hold, at least for now, the threat alone has already taken a bite out of trade.
There have been contracts that were expected and not signed. There have been delays in shipments. So yes, we have already started to see some of those impacts.
The industry group says more than 22,000 people work in the pork sector in Manitoba, and if tariffs are ever imposed, jobs would be on the line. A tightly knit trading partnership may also be at risk of being lost.
The well-oiled machine that we have is in jeopardy of breaking down.
Peters hopes cooler heads prevail. If not, he says, the pork industry on both sides of the border would feel the consequences. Josh Crabb, CBC News, near Steinbach.
The tariff pause brings with it a lot of uncertainty, and that's taking an emotional toll on those in the ag industry. Jerry Friesen is one of the founders of the Manitoba Farmer Wellness Program and spoke about how he's feeling about the pause.
Now it's a wait-and-see game again, and it's always these uncertainties, the unknowns that create an enormous amount of stress. And so that's why I say, yes, there is a reprieve, and yet the worries continue.
What do you hear from farmers right now, given that obviously you're part of this wellness initiative, about how they're coping, given that, you know, if you're a small business and you're looking for other markets for your products or trying to shift things, that's much different than if you have this multi-layer of an ag operation.
It is, and in my conversations with farmers, Marcy, there's a continual expression of concern of what this will look like, whether that's livestock producers, whether that's grain producers, market gardeners, whatever the case may be, is, again, where the farmers are investing significant money into their operations and doing so without knowing what the end result will be, what they will in fact be able to get for their product, is the concerning part.
When you think about your program, how does the Farmer Wellness Program actually work to support people? Is it the lines that they call, or do you also have programs that you'd like people to know about?
No, basically what it is, Marcy, is we provide longer-term counseling. It's not a crisis service. We do have the Manitoba Farm and Rural Stress Line in Manitoba that producers can phone if they're in crisis. But our program provides 9 free or no-cost sessions to farmers, their families over the age of 16, and employees to give them that opportunity to talk about their stress, to talk about what's going on in their lives in a safe space someone that listens without judgment and is able to provide resources that will help people cope with these stressors.
What would you say to Manitobans about how they can help support the ag industry at this time?
Well, I'm a staunch proponent of the fact that, we see it all on billboards, et cetera, that farming feeds us all. I think as a general population, we know that the farming population is relatively small. It makes up less than 2% of our population. And so I hope that from society in general, there's that understanding, there's that empathy, that we can provide that empathy to our producers, to provide that listening, non-judgmental ear, and to help support them as they work their way through a worrisome situation.
Riley's back in now. Riley, it's during these bitter cold spells that I really think of the people who have to work outdoors,
Yes.
our team members included, because man, it is not easy.
No, it's not.
Those are tough days.
Yeah, even the heaviest of clothes sometimes. The wind can just kind of break right through there.
And it is not going anywhere.
No, we are looking at some snow, some accumulating snow. I want to start big picture. I want to show you what's happening to the west of us to get a sense of what's happening and what will move in to parts of southern Manitoba. So first off, you can start to see something. You might not be able to see it at home, but just something starting to develop in Colorado there. That combined with this system here, this big area of low pressure off the Pacific coast is what's going to lead to some precipitation for us as we get through the next 24 hours. So advancing this, we'll start big picture first, then we'll zoom in a little bit closer here. As we get through into the morning hours, you can see that main band of snow kind of riding up the jet stream as we get into the morning into the afternoon hours, spreading that main area of snow into central parts of the province. And there's that little bit that was starting to develop in Colorado. Watch what happens as we get through the rest of the day. Yes, that Colorado low does develop, misses Manitoba, does get into northwestern Ontario, but does combine with this system. And this is going to lead to some of that accumulating snow as we get through the next couple of days. So starting into the overnight hours, you can start to see some of that snow moving in to parts of western Manitoba, Dauphin through the Riding Mountain region, into Winnipeg through the morning hours. Not snowing all day tomorrow, looking at more like periods of snow through the day, but it's really once we get into the evening hours on Wednesday that we just start to see some of that main accumulation into the Red River Valley and into parts of eastern Manitoba. So we are in for a bit of a snowy day across the province tomorrow. And this is going to be the light, fluffy stuff. So this is going to really blow around quite easily on highways and lead to visibility concerns throughout the day tomorrow, particularly west, as we head into the coming days. Looking at our snowfall potential, really this area in blue here, this is where we're looking at that 15 to 20 centimeters through the Riding, the Duck Mountains. Southern Manitoba, Winnipeg, I think this 9 centimeters kind of on the high end for us. I think we're maybe in for more like 5 or 6 centimeters of snow as we get through the next 48 hours or so here, more like 7 to 10 into Brandon and southwestern Manitoba. So we are looking at some general accumulation over the next 24, 36 hours really across southern Manitoba. Temperatures minus 17 to start in Dauphin tomorrow, minus 19 first thing in the morning for Winnipeg, Thompson minus 22 in Kenora. We do get to minus 12 tomorrow, so close to seasonal for this time of the year. And then we sink back below seasonal again, Brittany, but breezy on Thursday, minus 14 for Thursday, Friday, and sunshine for the weekend. Temperatures around minus 16.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, here's an icy look at the city skyline as we head to break. We have more to come after this. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Well, Donald Trump may have hit pause on a trade war that he started with Canada, but the U.S. president seems to have evoked strong emotions for many Canadians, something that looks less polite and a lot more patriotic. Thomas Dagg has that story.
Consider it the Canadian way, venting frustration with humor at this New York pharmacy, replacing American snacks with Canadian favorites. For Toronto comedian Arsalan Shirazi, it's not all a joke.
I think there's an element of people saying like, hey, we're not going to just let you push us around because we have to stand up for ourselves. We have to push back.
Just ask any Canadian outside Toronto's U.S. consulate. You'll get an earful of patriotism mixed with anger.
Well, I'm pissed. I think it's the wrong way to do it. It's our closest ally. It's ridiculous, actually.
This plaque thanking Canadians for their support after 9/11 is a reminder of how close the relationship between the two countries has been. But historians can name other low points like this. The Star-Spangled Banner booed in Montreal in 2003 as the U.S. pressured allies to join the invasion of Iraq. Canada memorably declined, exposing cracks in what had been a mostly stable relationship since Confederation.
That sparked a kind of emotional response that we're seeing similar to today, where a lot of Canadians are like, hey, stop bullying us, stop trying to kind of push your views on us.
He points to this Guess Who classic. Written as a protest song and released amid strong anti-American sentiment in Canada over the Vietnam War.
There's always been this undercurrent of kind of conflict and cooperation that's been going on. And Canadians have had to deal with the United States in a way that most other countries do not.
This time, the patriotism is erupting with calls to buy Canadian, and the Maple Leaf seen on social media a lot more than usual.
I think that comes alongside a bit of an anti-American sentiment, a frustration that our closest neighbor and trading partner has decided to treat us this way.
Oh, Canada, our home and native.
In a new twist Monday night, Nashville hockey fans booed "O Canada." So while the trade war may be on pause, tensions still simmer.
That was CBC's Thomas Dagg in Toronto. The uncertainty over just what comes next with tariffs is also being felt by many Americans. CBC's Sarah Levitt went just south of the border and found consumers and businesses still bracing for impact.
In Plattsburgh, New York, just a 30-minute drive from the Canadian border.
Everything's already expensive, so we don't need it any more expensive.
Shoppers admit they're worried about a trade war, even with this delay.
What's this tell you? Huh? I'm for the Canada. U.S. is no good no more.
Others, though, remain confident in their president.
I think Mr. Trump's doing a great job. I think it's about time we get the level the playing field.
Economists say if tariffs come, prices will go up in the U.S. as in Canada, the impact immediate. Among the biggest changes, Americans can expect to pay more for cars, fuel like gas, lumber, which will see construction prices rise, and groceries. The potential increases are concerning at this grocery store, but the manager says Donald Trump's unpredictability is just as frustrating.
We don't know what to tell our customers. If they're like, can you guarantee that this will be here? I can't guarantee anything.
Hannah Stasko says she gets the sense some people don't realize just how intertwined the Canadian and U.S. markets are.
I'm a local produce supplier. We get a lot of stuff locally. Those local suppliers still need their equipment. They still need their supplies. They still need their partners in Canada that they've built relationships with.
We must sound the alarm.
For Michael Cashman, an elected official with the town of Plattsburgh, the uncertainty is stressful.
There will be a hardening on both sides, and how do we come to some type of solution for this? This could have a rippling effect that would rip the very fabric of our economies apart.
There's another worry here in Plattsburgh that this uncertainty could further strain relationships between Americans and their Canadian neighbors. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Plattsburgh, New York.
Meantime, the Trump administration has followed through with its tariff threats against China, imposing sweeping new duties on Chinese imports. Journalist Yina Li is in Beijing with more on China's quick but limited retaliation.
A 15% tax on U.S. coal and 10% on goods such as farm equipment, pickup trucks and crude oil. These are just some of the U.S. imports that face new Chinese tariffs. China also announced export curbs on 5 critical minerals, these metals that are crucial to new technology and innovation. Beijing argues that this is just a response to Washington's actions as the U.S. slapped an additional 10% tax on all Chinese imports first. This reaction, though, is actually rather measured. So far, we haven't seen a huge escalation on either side. Donald Trump actually backed down from the 60% tariff he had promised on the campaign trail, going down to 10%. And Beijing now with this relatively muted response. It does appear both sides are actually publicly gearing up to enter a round of negotiations first. The future is still very much uncertain. The official reason behind Trump's tariffs is the fentanyl crisis, and the Chinese have in the past shown willingness to cooperate and collaborate with the US on this topic. But should the White House once again dig deeper into issues that have plagued their bilateral relationship in the past, such as trade imbalance or their tech rivalry, such as critical minerals versus chips, etc., well, then tensions can certainly heat up as we move forward. The tit-for-tat Chinese tariffs are set to start on February 10th, so there is still some time and some room for discussion. And according to the White House, a call between Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping could take place in the days to come. This is a new chapter in the trade war between China and the US, but not as dramatic as observers had feared months ago. But still, for exporters, for importers, everything is up in the air right now. One thing is for sure, though, this isn't Beijing's first time dealing with Trump's tariffs, and they can perhaps find areas of negotiation moving forward.
That was journalist Yina Li in Beijing. Now, recent actions by the Trump administration to roll back some transgender rights has the community in the U.S. worried, and some are looking north. As Katie Nicholson reports, they may have an argument to claim asylum in Canada.
Kelly and her family moved from Florida to Minnesota a year and a half ago. Now they're looking into whether they need to move again.
To qualify for asylum in Canada, you must prove a well-founded fear of persecution based on race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group, which includes LGBTQ+ people.
Her oldest son, Ollie, is trans. We aren't using her last name or saying exactly where they live because of their safety concerns. Minnesota has been welcoming, but the Trump administration's orders rolling back trans rights have challenged that sense of safety.
Is it weird, to sort of be thinking about leaving America, to have considered that?
It's so dystopian. We're living the Handmaid's Tale. Like, how is this the United States of America? Words come out of my mouth, and in my head, I'm like, this can't be real. This can't, right? It's so bizarre. We're in the United States of America, the most powerful country in the world. And its citizens are looking at asylum in other countries. Make it make sense.
Claiming asylum has been a tough argument for Americans to make in Canada.
Typically, those claims have been hard because what you have to prove is that the state is unwilling or unable to protect you, and that there's nowhere else in your country that you can go and live safely.
That was before a slew of executive orders recognizing only 2 genders, banning transgender soldiers from the military, and defunding gender-affirming care for youth.
I think we're seeing a lot clearer picture of the state being the agent of persecution.
American Elliot Duvall lives in London, Ontario. He's now afraid to cross the border to visit his family.
I'm scared to go back because, one, that my passport still says a female on it. It still says a female on it, and I don't look anything like a female. Hi, Mom, how are you?
For now, this is the only way he'll get to see his mother in Arkansas. Stuck, like many others, in documentation limbo. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
Swedish police say at least 10 people are dead, including the gunman, after a shooting at an adult learning center. Sweden's prime minister is calling it the country's worst mass shooting. Damage at the crime scene is so extensive, the final number of the dead and wounded have yet to be determined even hours later. It happened about 200 kilometers west of Stockholm in the city of Örebro. Investigators are searching for a motive, but say there's no connection to terrorism so far. It's believed the shooter acted alone. Gun violence is very rare in Sweden, but there have been a number of recent instances where people were attacked with knives or axes. Prince Karim Aga Khan IV, the spiritual leader of Ismaili Muslims, has died. The Aga Khan Development Network, which he founded, released a statement saying he passed away peacefully in Lisbon Tuesday. He was the 49th hereditary imam of the Shia Ismaili Muslims and said to be the direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. The network says his successor will be announced at a later time. Aga Khan died at 88. The Trump administration put a freeze on many federal health agency communications with the public, and scientists here say it could stall drug research and treatments for diseases. We'll have more on the concerns being raised after the break. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Scientists here in Canada are expressing concern over Donald Trump's apparent pause on federal health spending in the U.S. They say it could stall research on new drugs, including vaccines and cancer treatments in this country. Jennifer Yoon explains.
Uncertainty about funding freezes from the U.S. National Institutes of Health, or NIH.
Do you have some results you can share with me?
Canadian medical researchers watching to see if their work will be put on hold.
There's a lot of anxiety. It's hard to understate how important this agency is for everyone around the world.
The NIH funds some of the world's top research. Last year, Canadian researchers received about $40 million of its $47 billion in grants.
Do you mind making it full screen?
This brain researcher, who has relied on NIH funding throughout his career, worries about future scientific research.
There are a number of diseases and injuries that are not well treated at the moment, and there are people that are committed to the improvement and care of these individuals, and absent this kind of funding, these people will just continue to suffer.
Vaccines, cancer research, cystic fibrosis, studies of the brain. These are all grants that are active in this fiscal year.
This Canadian epidemiologist who does HIV prevention research worries about future work for herself and others.
People like me that have worked on both sides of the border help Canadian researchers apply for NIH funding. And I personally know and have trained over 15 Canadians who are PhDs who have stayed in Canada to do work that are working with NIH dollars.
So you can do that protocol.
Scientists say good research cannot endure that kind of uncertainty for too long. It sends a chill throughout the scientific community.
We don't know a lot about the details, and they seem to be changing every second. And I think that uncertainty actually is adding to the crisis.
Others wonder if there's a silver lining by attracting talent to this country.
This is an opportunity for not brain drain, but brain gain.
As for Strathdy, unsure of the future of science in the U.S., she's considering moving to Canada. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
The European Space Agency says it's closely monitoring an asteroid that has a small chance it could hit Earth in about 7 years.
Let me tell you, the most likely scenario is that by the time we lose sight of the object in April this year, the impact probabilities will have lowered enough not to worry about this object anymore.
Asteroid 2024 YR4, as it's called, was recognized as a potential threat last December. Experts believe it has nearly 99% chance of safely passing by Earth in 2032, but they can't completely rule out a 1% possibility of impact. The space rock is estimated to be between 40 to 90 meters across. Early data suggests an impact velocity of more than 17 kilometers per second. A hit could release energy ranging from 5 to 50 megatons. Scientists plan to discuss a global response if the probability stays above 1%.
Okay, I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, but you know what? 7 years, we got things that we need to worry about today, tomorrow, and 7 days from now. So let's focus on those things right now, including the snow, the bitter cold. We got other things to focus on.
Some snow coming to southern and central Manitoba, as I showed you earlier, Brittany, and that will lead to some reduced visibility on highways, especially as we get the further west in the province and into Saskatchewan. So let's start with the dog walking forecast as we get into the day on Wednesday. Here is Bo. Bo is ready for the snow, and Bo is ready for the cold temperatures as well. I really love the booties. Thank you, Pam, for sending this picture, and you can send yours to talkback at cbc.ca. So we're looking at minus 19 first thing in the morning for Winnipeg, up to minus 12 through the afternoon hours tomorrow, with periods of snow intensifying as we get into the evening and into the overnight hours. Look at how far south this cold air spreads, even down into parts of Nebraska, Chicago, Windsor, on the freezing mark, which is normal for this time of the year for southern Ontario, but certainly spreading back to the west. In contrast, though, Charlotte, Atlanta in the high 20s. So we're back into some warm temperatures in the southern states once again. Overnight tonight, 23 below in Brandon under mostly cloudy sky tonight. That snow starting through Dauphin and Swan River through the overnight hours, minus 24 in Dauphin tonight, minus 21 in Thompson, minus 18 into Dooley Lake. And we've seen some very strong winds along the Hudson Bay coast that will continue as we get through the overnight period tonight. Still breezy as we head through the day tomorrow. Looking at your hour by hour as we head into the afternoon. Looking at actually a mix of sun and clouds for parts of northern Manitoba tomorrow. Some peaks of sunshine for Norway House. Maybe even earlier in the day in places like Grand Rapids, getting some sunshine first thing in the morning tomorrow. Minus 16 in Lynn Lake tomorrow afternoon. As we get into southern Manitoba by the first part of the morning, we start to see that snow already spreading into Dauphin, into Swan River, Verdon. That does spread further to the east as we get into the afternoon hours tomorrow. So by lunchtime, looking at a chance of flurries in places like Brandon and Melita, but more of a steady snow once again through the Riding Mountain region, through Dauphin, into Peguis, Arborg, and into Gimli. As this system makes its way east, it will start to spread some snow further south, so more of an afternoon-evening event, as I mentioned, for places like Brandon and certainly into the Red River Valley, and some accumulating snow. So we'll break it all down. I'll have more in your 7-day forecast, including how cold things are getting as we start next week.
Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, there's wisdom and vulnerability that comes with aging. A solo dance show happening this weekend explores this by putting a spotlight on the golden years. Shannalee Vidal has a preview.
They say age is just a number. I'm Shannalee Vidal, and I'm here at the Rachel Brown Theatre, where aging is being expressed through dance. The production is called Old, and it stars a woman whose dance career spans more than 50 years. Margie Gillis started dancing at the age of 3, and now in her 70s, she's using her body movements to reframe how we think about the journey of becoming a senior. She co-created a solo show called Old, and will be performing it for the Winnipeg Contemporary Dancers' current season.
Aging is tough. It's hard. There's a lot of pain and things falling apart and disease and loss of friends and things. And but what are the wisdoms? What are the joys of this experience? Sitting in Sorrow is done on the Victorian couch, divan, and it's just being with the sadness and letting the sadness dance itself until the sadness releases you and you move on to some joy. So the set is just full of toys and teacups and feet on roller skates and mirrors and captain's hats and old beat up frames. And a lot of the set is from my family home. My great-grandfather was a minister. So there's a lot of Victorian furniture that's all broken and smashed, and a lot of three-legged chairs, which I dance with and move with and crawl through.
Winnipeg-based visual artist Randall Newman collaborated with Gillis to create Old. He also designed the set, a carefully jumbled pile of antique home decor and furniture that is now worse for wear.
And I began to think of it as in terms of colonialism and how these things would have been at one time very prized possessions and very beautiful, but over the decades and over the years and over the history of lives, they've broken down, not unlike the situation that we find ourselves in today. Where they're broken, I've marked them with gold leaf on the pieces because it was kind of like an injury that maybe we could heal. So there's things that highlight, you know, the brokenness of it all, but to me, they're still very beautiful.
You do feel squeezed in old age, like, where's my liberty, where's my freedom? So I'm squeezed between two chairs and the ground, and I didn't know I could even get in there, let alone get out of there. So this whole dance started evolving with the broken things that are broken in your life, things you can't do anymore, things where you feel trapped, and how to move with that and feel with that, and remembering kindnesses and thoughtfulnesses and loving things. So the chairs then become partners. Although they're inanimate objects, they represent the people that sat in them. They represent the people that made them. They represent the people. And so this set is really populated by an awful lot of human endeavor and caring, sorrow, anger, death, birth.
Gillis says old is about making a shift from fear to curiosity, something she hopes people think about with each passing year.
Old age is doable, it's workable, there can be excitement and beauty and joy. There are wisdoms to be gained, and if you just sit in your sorrow and don't let the sorrow move out of you, if you don't get curious, if you don't work with what you've got and then let that change and see what can we find that's good and how can we understand that as part of life and part of our journey.
Old will be the final full-length solo production for 71-year-old Margie Gillis. Shanley Vidal, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Here's a look at the river trail. Well, it's a little cool to go for a skate unless you dress for it. Of course, Riley's back with the last check on our forecast. Stay with us.
All right, well, a great day ahead for your Wednesday. Periods of snow throughout the day tomorrow in Winnipeg. Not snowing all day long, but certainly you'll see some periods of snow through the morning hours, picking up as we get through the afternoon into the evening. Up to -12 tomorrow, winds Out of the southeast, gusting up to 30, so not terribly windy, but certainly when you get some of this fluffy snow falling, you could run into some visibility issues. Minus 14 for Thursday and Friday. We get the sunshine back as we head into the weekend. Minus 16s for both Saturday and Sunday. And then as we head into next week, temperatures dive once again. We're looking at minus 20 for Monday and minus 21 on the way for Tuesday. Well, the cold winter weather, no doubt, has probably a lot of you, or some of you at least, thinking of some indoor activities to do.
Or getting on a flight. 25 people took part in a lightsaber training class in Regina over the weekend. A little Star Wars inspiration is our daily lift.
The lightsaber battle training is just a fun program for kids and youth, just to encourage physical activity, promote a little bit of the martial arts techniques that we would do with the regular martial arts, but just give a little bit of more of a fun twist for the kids. It gets them really excited. As soon as you start using lightsabers, everyone's motivated to work a little bit harder. So fun way to keep them active and busy and something physical for them to do. This is the first time we've done a specific lightsaber class, but we do it in our summer camps all the time. We've been doing it for several years, but first time we've ever had a dedicated lightsaber training session. We'll be doing obviously some from the Star Wars battles, but then we also do some from just non-lightsaber ones that are just good fight scenes, but we just apply it with the lightsabers. And we do a lot of that aren't necessarily fight scenes, but just different moves that help work on the kids' coordination and movement and timing and such.
It's going amazing. It's pretty fun, but sadly I can't really do much of the spins because I pulled one of my hip flexors the other day. So I really like how they buzz and churn, I guess, when you move them around and hit them with each other. It's better than a regular class because I get to see some people I don't really see that much, since you have to be in Black Belt Club, a little thing here. You have to be in Black Belt Club in order to go to any of the extra classes like tournament or weapons.
This one sold out. We had a lot of students that were disappointed because they couldn't get into it, so we'll be doing another one in the future for sure.
Did you see how many lightsabers she had at the end? She had 2 handfuls of them. I don't know. I've never seen Star Wars, but I do love the lightsaber look.
Looks like fun. Looks like a lot of fun.
Have a wonderful night. Stay warm, stay safe. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.